We have a serious violation of an existing rule that threatens the health and welfare of our players.
And all of a sudden, we just go on this tear, forget just the Super Bowl, just a tear of 3 years where we were kicking ass. We were doing everything to keep that, and the only thing that could stop us was the BountyGate.
Year, and you're not able to talk to any coach, you're not able to talk to any other player. Like, they are trying to break you.
BountyGate, the NFL scandal that rocked the football world, made Roger Goodell angrier than a referee getting booed in Philadelphia, and turned the New Orleans Saints from America's feel-good story into the league's most wanted criminals overnight. If you're a Saints fan, you probably still have PTSD from hearing the word bounty. If you're not, you might have loved the drama.
Wow, did he get hit? Kurt Warner still down.
Kill the hit, the body will die. So lay that motherfucker out. We're going to dominate the line of scrimmage, and we're going to kill the hit. Remember me. I got the first one. I got the first one.
To understand why this scandal was such a big deal, we need to rewind a bit. The Saints were not always the powerhouse team we know today. In fact, before Drew Brees and Sean Payton came along, they were more known for the Aints nickname, paper bag-wearing fans, and an almost comical level of mediocrity. But things changed in the mid-2000s. In 2006, the Saints hired Sean Payton as head coach, signed Drew Brees, and drafted Reggie Bush. This immediately transformed them into contenders. In the 2009 season, New Orleans went 13-3, had an electric offense, and won Super Bowl 44 by beating Peyton Manning's Colts. Soon, the Saints became America's darlings, especially since they represented a city recovering from Hurricane Katrina. Everything was going perfectly until 2012, when Roger Goodell dropped a scandal bomb that would make Deflategate and Spygate look like minor traffic violations. So, what was BountyGate? In March 2012, the NFL released a report stating that from 2009 to 2011, the Saints had a bounty system that rewarded players for injuring opponents. Yeah, you read that right. Cold, hard cash for making sure an opposing player needed an ice bath or worse. The accusations? Before the playoff games against the San Francisco 49ers, Saints defensive coordinator Gregg Williams allegedly gave a passionate speech to his defensive players, a speech that had a grim underlining to it. Gregg instructed players to injure quarterback Alex Smith, running back Frank Gore, tight end Vernon Davis, Kyle Williams, and Kendall Hunter. If completed, a large payday awaits. So basically, he was hiring bounty hunters to pick off his targets one by one, which would later be known as one of the biggest scandals in NFL history. And the reaction from the NFL? Absolute chaos. On January 15, 2009, the New Orleans Saints hired defensive coordinator Gregg Williams to revive their lackluster defense, which ranked 23rd in the league. Sean Payton was so impressed with Williams that Payton voluntarily took a $250,000 pay cut just to sign him in. Williams' aggressive defense consistently ranked within the top 10 in the NFL. He was also the head coach for the Buffalo Bills and the defensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. He was as systematic and willing to give up anything to gain that edge on the field. Unfortunately, his greed for win often blurred the lines of morality, which would later cost him and the Saints dearly. Now, let's talk about his first target, 38-year-old Arizona Cardinal quarterback Kurt Warner. Gregg Williams wanted to see how much more life was left in Warner. As a result, Warner was hit all night, some more vicious and violent than the last. This was the most punishing game in Warner's 12-year career. The Saints won the game by 45-14. Concerns began to rise as some started to speculate Gregg Williams' sinister intentions. Soon, these speculations would be justified when the Saints faced off against the Minnesota Vikings in the NFC Championship game. This time, the target was 40-year-old Brett Favre, and Bobby McCray, the defensive end of the Saints, was the first one to go all out on Favre. Surprisingly, he was also the one who brutally hurt Kurt Warner. McCray played dirty, hitting at places like Favre's ankles. He He would later be fined $20,000 for his illegal hits. But the Saints won the game by 31-28. Now, to give you a more in-depth rundown of how the bounty system worked, it paid $1,500 for knocking players out of the game and $1,000 for card-offs, $400 for hard hits, and a $100 deduction for mental errors. If the bounties were not collected, they would be put into next week's pool. So, instead of $1,500, it would be a $3,000 payout. It is said that Williams would pay a premium to those who would knock out the opposing team's star player. These were called kill shots. In postseasons, the payout would be doubled or tripled. The Saints had their very own hit list, and the victims in that list were shown no mercy, like Matt Hasselbeck, who for the most part absorbed a lot of hits throughout the games. But when Scott Shanley of the Saints shouldered Matt at one point and was sent to the turf. So that bounty was a failure. The next one on the list was Aaron Rodgers on week 1 of the 2011 season. The bounty was said to be $5,000. Jonathan Casillas threw Rodgers like a ragdoll in that match, but for the most part, Rodgers protected himself very well. So that was another failure. The next one was quarterback from the Chicago Bears, Jay Cutler. The amount of attacks Jay Cutler took in this game makes you understand where the accusations are coming from. He was sacked, hit, and even allegedly kicked in the throat, causing him to lose his voice. But was it intentional or just coincidence? Well, a bounty was collected with Roman Harper knocking Earl Bennett out of the game with a vicious hit to the chest. Back to Cutler. Since he was indeed hit a few times and got sacked about 6 times, I'd say a few thousand were collected, and the Saints won the game 30-13. So yeah, this target was a success. The next one was Cam Newton in the 2011 season. While the NFL could only confirm a bounty that was set on him on week 17, it's safe to assume a bounty was set on him on week 5. Newton faced several hits that could have led to many dangerous injuries. Newton was lucky enough not to sustain any major injuries, but he was roughly hit multiple times. So even this hit was a success for the Saints. Slowly, walls were closing in on Gregg Williams. More and more anonymous sources started reaching out to NFL officials, and the investigations were becoming more and more active. Many players stated that their coaches instructed them to protect their knees at all costs because the Saints would always go for the opposition's knees given any opportunity. It was common knowledge at this point. This bounty system was being exposed to more people every day. Soon, Gregg Williams' evil schemes would come to light, and the Saints' world would come crashing down. Williams' final game takes us back to the 2011 NFC Divisional between the Saints and the 49ers. This is it. This was the final nail in the coffin. Prior to the game, filmmaker Sean Pamphilon managed to record the meeting of Williams with his entire defensive team. The recording contained many graphic moments. Bounties were put on wide receiver Kyle Williams, Michael Crabtree, Alex Smith, and more. One thing to note here, most of the targets of this bounty system are not just random. They are highly calculated and intentional. Most of the targets are players with a past injury history. This was perhaps one of the hardest hitting playoff games of our generation, and it is sickening how evil some people can be, even in sports. But karma is something not to take lightly. The 49ers won the game 36-32. This would be Gregg Williams' last game with the Saints. On March 12, 2012, the NFL found evidence of this bounty system. The media didn't waste this opportunity either. More and more details about this scandal started surfacing with each hour. Every player, official's name started coming out, and Gregg Williams, he did the obvious thing, which is apologizing for his actions. But turns out, it wasn't the first time he used this system. His former teams and their players came out with more information on how Gregg used the bounty system during his time with those teams as well. Turns out, this type of system was quite common in the NFL, with up to 40% of players participating in bounty systems. Roger Goodell was disgusted with this scandal and carried out some of the most severe punishments in NFL history. Gregg Williams and Sean Payton were suspended, alongside many other players. Mickey Loomis was also suspended. Basically, anyone related to that scandal was suspended indefinitely. Then there was another whole fiasco with the suspended players and officials claiming that Roger Goodell misconstrued evidence just to put the blame on these people. But that didn't go smoothly at all. Do you believe Gregg Williams is an evil individual or a coach who would do anything to win? Let us know in the comments down below. If you're new to this channel, click on that bell icon to be notified about our latest videos. And as always, stay tuned with NFL Insider.